You know those days when the world feels like it's spinning too fast, notifications are pinging nonstop, and your to-do list seems to be breeding new tasks while you sleep? Yeah, we're talking about that feeling today. The chaos isn't just in your head. We're living in what researchers call the attention economy, where everyone and everything is competing for your limited mental bandwidth. And in 2025, with the political landscape shifting pretty much daily, it feels even more overwhelming. Policies changing, healthcare debates, market fluctuations. It's enough to keep anyone glued to the news instead of focused on their business. It's incredibly challenging to concentrate on creating your next digital product when your phone is lighting up with alerts about the latest executive order or policy shift. As solo business owners working from home, that political turmoil creeps right into our workspaces, making the boundary between world chaos and work focus thinner than ever. But here's what I know for sure. Your ability to focus in a chaotic world isn't just a nice-to-have skill. It can be your competitive advantage. While others are bouncing between distractions and doom scrolling through the latest political developments, you can be the business owner who's methodically moving forward, creating impact, and feeling accomplished at the end of each day. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to go from scattered to focused, even when the world around you seems determined to pull you in 1,000 directions. Because I've been there. I have fought those battles. I'm still fighting those battles. And what I know is that reclaiming your focus isn't about superhuman willpower. It's about smart systems and strategic boundaries that work even in these turbulent times. So if you've ever reached the end of a busy day and thought, what the heck did I actually accomplish today? Where did all those hours go? This episode's for you. So let's get started. So what exactly causes us to feel scattered in the first place? For most solo business owners in 2025, it comes down to a few key things. First, there's the information overload. You're bombarded with emails, social media notifications, client messages, and that never-ending stream of political headlines. Every time you glance at your phone, there's another alert about a policy change that might affect you or another economic prediction that leaves you wondering if you should pivot your offers. Your brain is constantly switching gears, and that's exhausting. Second, there's the lack of clear priorities. When everything feels urgent, when the external world is in flux, it's hard to distinguish between what needs your immediate attention and what's just noise. And when you're the CEO, marketing department, customer service rep, and content creator all at once, it's easy to feel pulled in multiple directions. Have you ever felt like you're juggling too many things at once, and the very moment that you focus on one ball, all of the others start falling? I know that I have. That's the scattered mindset in action. And it's been amplified by this post-election environment where it feels like we need to stay informed about everything all the time. For me, it feels like every other day I find myself going down a rabbit hole, reading about something that's happening in the world, and trying to figure out how it's going to affect me, my family, or my business. And too often, my day goes completely off the rails. The biggest problem with being scattered isn't just that it feels terrible, it's that it prevents you from making meaningful progress on the things that will actually grow your business. Those big projects, the ones that could transform your impact or your income, they keep getting pushed to someday because you're too busy putting fires out today. You can't focus on growing your business if you're constantly reacting to external chaos. Before we can fix the scatter, We need to identify what's causing it. So grab a notebook or open a note on your phone because I want you to do a quick exercise with me. Take a moment to write down 3 specific things that break your focus during your workday. Be honest with yourself here. For me, it's checking news updates throughout the day instead of at set times, getting sucked into political discussions on social media when I'm just checking something quickly, and trying to multitask when I'm working on something important because I feel like I need to stay on top of everything. What about you? Pause this episode if you need to and really think about it for a minute. Here's the thing. Your distractions might be different than mine. Maybe it's family members interrupting you, the joys from working from home, right? Maybe it's your own tendency to bounce between projects without completing any of them. Or maybe it's that your phone pings constantly with notifications. The key is to identify your specific distractions because once you know what they are, you can do something about them. What's that saying? Admitting that you have a problem is the first step. This is kind of like that. I worked with a member in my community recently who realized that her biggest distraction was actually her own perfectionism. She would start a project, then get caught up in endlessly tweaking and researching so that she never actually finished anything. Once she identified this pattern, she could set up systems to counteract it. Things like setting strict time limits for research. She created a good enough checklist for her blog posts that outlined the minimum viable elements she needed before publishing. She also started using a timer during editing sessions so that she wouldn't be caught in that cycle of endless tweaking. And another system that she implemented was the rule of 3 revisions. She had to either publish or get feedback from somebody else. No more solo revisions allowed after she did 3. And one of my favorite systems that she developed was scheduling a ship it appointment in her calendar. This was a non-negotiable time when she had to release her work into the world, whether she felt like it was ready or not. If you're like me and your biggest distractions right now have to do with anxiety from the news, here's an idea. Create a control inventory in your Notes app on your phone. Just a simple list dividing your concerns into things that you can control and things that you can't control right now. This will get the thoughts out of your head and help you refocus on actionable tasks. Because in uncertain times, doubling down on what you can control becomes even more important. Other people may be paralyzed by the chaos, but you can continue building your business. Now that you know what distracts you, let's talk about creating an environment that supports focus instead of sabotaging it. Think of your workspace as a garden. It needs regular tending to flourish, right? A garden that's overrun with weeds doesn't produce as many vegetables. Same thing with your work environment. Physical or digital clutter creates mental clutter. And in 2025, with the constant deluge of news and updates, our digital environments have become especially weedy. For your physical space, this might mean clearing your desk of everything except what you need for the task at hand, having a dedicated workspace that signals to your brain and your family that you're in work mode, using noise-canceling headphones if sound distracts you. I just started wearing noise-canceling headphones last year, and it has been super helpful. Keeping your phone in another room during focus blocks so that you can avoid those breaking news alerts. And next, for your digital space, close those extra browser tabs. I have 11 open right now, but for me, that's not too bad. Use website blockers during focus time. I use Stay Focused. It's a Chrome extension to block distracting sites when I need to concentrate. Consider setting up a separate browser profile for work that doesn't have news sites or social media in the bookmarks or history. That makes it just a little bit harder for you to get to those sites. And turn off all push notifications on your devices, at least during work hours. I'll share a personal example. I tend to work with email open all day long in a tab. I know that that's not good, but I do it anyway. It's a habit that goes back to my corporate days when I had to be plugged into email all day long. And I'm bad about clicking over to that tab constantly. But when I really need to focus, I'll shut it down and only check email 3 scheduled times per day. When I do that, my creative work is deeper and better. I can still respond to everyone within 24 hours. And I stop having that frantic, scattered feeling all day. A similar strategy is to create a news schedule. Instead of checking the news throughout the day, set specific times, maybe 30 minutes in the evening, so that you can catch up on current events. One change that's made a huge difference for me is setting up my desk the night before. I take about 5 minutes at the end of each workday just to tidy up. Then when I sit down the next morning, I'm not weeding through yesterday's mess, and it gives me a little head start on the day. Remember, in times of external chaos, your workspace can be a sanctuary of order and purpose. It should remind you of your priorities, not the world's emergencies. Okay, so you've identified your distractions and created an environment that supports focus. The next step is figuring out what to focus on. Because let's be real, as solo business owners, we will never run out of things that we could be doing. The key word there is could, not should. I love using the Eisenhower matrix for this. It helps you sort tasks based on their urgency and importance. Here's how it works. Imagine a box divided into 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is urgent and important. You should do these tasks immediately. Quadrant 2 is important but not urgent. These are tasks that you should schedule. Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. You should delegate these if possible. And then there's quadrant 4, neither urgent nor important. Eliminate these tasks altogether. Most of us spend too much time in quadrants 1 and quadrants 3. That's the urgent stuff. But the tasks that move our businesses forward are usually in quadrant 2. They're important, but they're not urgent. These are things like creating systems, developing new offers, or strategic planning. And here's where the current political climate creates a trap. We may miscategorize staying informed as being in quadrant 1, urgent and important, but for most of our businesses, it's really in quadrant 3 or even quadrant 4. I had this realization when I was doing my monthly review for January. It felt like I had been working a lot because I'd been in front of my computer all day, every day. But I didn't make the progress toward my goals that I wanted to make. I have an app on my computer called Clockify that tracks where I spend my time online. So I analyzed my time and figured out that I was spending way too much time on non-work sites. I was letting the urgent noise of political headlines eat up the time that I should have been spending on work. What I've learned is that we need to ruthlessly protect our quadrant 2 time, the non-urgent but important work, especially when the world feels chaotic. A simple way to implement this is to identify your 1 to 3 most important tasks each day before you open your email or social media. You can write them down on paper, or I create a task in Asana where I put this list. And then commit to tackling at least the first one before you consume any information and potentially get derailed. If you want more tips on prioritizing, check out episode 6. I'll drop a link to it in the show notes. Now let's talk about routines. I am such a fan of routines. They might sound boring, but they're actually a superpower for solo business owners. When you have consistent routines, you eliminate the decision fatigue that comes from constantly figuring out what to do next. Oh, and by the way, I have a whole episode on decision fatigue. I'll include a link to that in the show notes as well. My own daily routine looks something like this. From 6 to 7 a.m., I do my morning routine. This is for journaling, coffee, and planning my day. 8 to 9, I do my startup checklist. This is when I get my computer going, update various tracking spreadsheets, I review my notes from the day before, that kind of stuff. Then 9 to 11:30, I do deep work on my main project for the week. No email, no social media. Then 11:30 to 2:30 is when I work out and then eat lunch. And if I have errands to run, I do them during that time block. 2:30 to 4 is when I work on my second most important project for the week. And then 4 to 4:30 is for email, administrative tasks, less intensive work. And that's when I wrap up for the day as well. And I take 15-minute breaks every hour to get up, move around, replenish my coffee or water, do a few quick tasks around the house, that kind of thing. Now, your routine might look completely different based on your energy levels, your family responsibilities, and the nature of your business. The point isn't to copy my schedule, but to create intentional blocks that align with how you work best. One member in my community is a night owl, and she does her best creative work after her kids go to bed. So her routine includes a deep work block from 8 to 11 p.m. I could never do that, but it works for her. Another is a service provider who she needs to be available to clients during business hours. So she front loads client work in the morning and saves her business development activities for later in the day. The key is consistency. When you show up at the same time each day for specific types of work, your brain starts to recognize the pattern and it drops into focus mode more quickly. Even with the best environment and routines, we all have moments when our minds just won't cooperate. That's where mindfulness techniques come in. One simple practice that I use is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. You breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. Do this a few times when you notice your mind wandering, and it will help you reset your focus. It also calms you down if you're feeling anxious. Another technique is the 15-minute rule, which is actually an anti-procrastination technique. The idea is simple. If you have a task that you keep putting off, then devote 15 minutes to it and then stop. My twist on this is to use it when I'm finding it hard to focus. I tell myself, I just need to focus for 15 minutes, then I can stop. Usually, once I get going, I want to keep going. And by the way, I share more strategies for beating procrastination in episode 21. I'll include a link to that in the show notes. And for mental clarity, I also use a brain dump technique when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I open a blank note in Evernote, you can use Google Docs, and write down everything that's on my mind, all the tasks, worries, ideas, everything. Getting it out of my head and onto digital paper helps me see what's actually important versus what's just mental noise. Try these techniques and notice what works for you. The goal isn't to be completely focused all the time. That's not realistic. The goal is to recognize when you're scattered and have tools to bring yourself back to focus. We've covered a lot today about moving from scattered to focused, especially in these chaotic times. So let's recap the key points. 1, understand that being scattered isn't a personal failing. It's a natural response to the complex demands of running a solo business in an uncertain world. 2, identify your specific distractions so that you can address them. 3, create an environment that supports focus, both physically and digitally. If you find the news distracting, then set boundaries around news consumption. 4, set clear priorities using tools like the Eisenhower Matrix. 5, develop consistent routines that work with your energy and responsibilities while also protecting you from information overload. And 6, use mindfulness techniques to bring yourself back to focus when needed. Now, I promised you some action steps. So here are 3 things you can do this week to start shifting from scattered to focused. 1, do a distraction audit. Track what pulls your attention away for one full workday. Write down every interruption, every app check, every task switch. This awareness alone will help you start shifting your behavior. Next, create a focus first, news later morning routine. Commit to working on your most important task for at least 60 minutes before checking any news, email, social media, or any other inputs. Put a sticky note on your computer that says your business needs your focus more than the world needs your attention right now. That's a good reminder. Even this small change can really increase your productivity and decrease your anxiety. And then 3, choose one focus technique from this episode to try for the next 5 workdays. Whether it's the 15-minute rule, using a browser blocker, or scheduled email or news checking. Give it a fair shot before you decide if it works for you. Your ability to stay focused on what you can control isn't just good for your productivity, it's good for your mental health. And paradoxically, the more chaotic the world becomes, the more valuable your focused attention becomes as a business asset. For those who want to go deeper into this topic, let me mention my course, Find Your Focus Bootcamp. It's an 8-lesson video course that's designed to help you improve your focus and productivity. It includes step-by-step guidance, worksheets, checklists, and an implementation plan so that you'll be equipped with the tools you need to regain control of your time and focus. And if you found this episode helpful, I'd love to hear which techniques you're going to try. Tag me on Instagram so I can cheer you on, or hit reply to my next email and let me know directly. Thanks so much for listening. In the next episode, I'll be sharing how to uncover the most profitable activities in your business. For now, remember, any step toward more focus is a win.